But just moving on really to the application process, I know it's always hard to sort of read forms like this on the hoof. We used to be really mean when we were doing Creative Works London. It was a really nice thing that we did. We sort of made everyone go in a dark room for about 2 hours and fill these out before they left to give people a better chance of getting on the programme. It was great fun and everybody hated it, of course, but it sort of did work. But one of the things that I think just to bear in mind, I think today, very much this application, if people are interested in taking this forward to the next stage, I think there's some stuff that we will talk about here in this form in a second. But just in very general terms, I wanted to just kind of talk through what we think will be happening here with the programme, sort of reiterating really what I mentioned back at the start of the day, for those of you that can remember that far back. It feels like quite a long session. But obviously, we're kind of at the first start now. We're at the first stages. Today, obviously, is the ideas pool for people who are interested in coming forward onto the programme. The key thing really that we're just asking people to do is make sure that you're eligible. So there's that list of criteria that we talked about earlier. We can talk that through again. And obviously the key thing really that we would very, very much like people to take on board when they're thinking about applying is the dates of the residencies, because we've got 3 and we've got them fairly much sort of set now. Very, very simply then, the application forms, which we can go through in a minute, should you be interested, should come into us in about a month's time, so the end of 22nd of June. And we will turn around decisions on those within 4 weeks. It's likely to be probably even shorter than that, but we're saying about 4 weeks here. And then when people agree that they're happy to come along, you might decide at that point, if you've been successful, that actually it's not for you. But if you do, and you decide to come along, then I think really it's at that point that that kind of looser process of liaison really with us, with the team, myself and Susie and Sarah, and also with Tamara, will sort of pretty much start right then at that point. Then in terms of the programme itself, the residentials that we spoke of earlier, they're going to be the first one, 14th and 15th of September. So I know that's not a million miles away, but just important that people realise that that's the date for the first one. And they're roughly about 6 months apart then, March 18 and November 18 there for the final one. And in between, in the 6 months, in the intervening 6 months between the residencies, that's when we anticipate a lot of the other peer-to-peer, one-to-one workshops, surgeries, mentoring, and the development really as well of this resource pool or skills bank that I like that phrase, the skills bank, the virtual skills bank phrase that Ed came up with actually, because in many ways what we see very much coming through this programme, because it's for a tight number of cohorts, very much is an online resource pool or online skills bank that will benefit the wider sector as we go forward. I'm not sure if it says anywhere, but we are planning and thinking that there will be about 25 to 30 people on the programme in total. And obviously, if you walk through the door and you decide perhaps you'd rather do other things, you can of course be part of other courses, online resources and the like that will be being developed throughout. Stage 3, after the programme itself has sort of formally ended, as it were, one of the key tasks, the dissemination, of course, of the learning to wider networks will be something that will be happening not just in not just towards the end, but we'll be doing that and in building that right from the start of the project. But there will be a final conference and showcase in March 2009 that sort of marks the end of the project formally, and will be very much open, of course, across the sector. But also, I think we're starting to think even now, really, about what the legacy of this kind of work needs to look like. And I know that you will all have ideas, and we'll be wanting very much for you to feed into that process as well. As we've said before, you know, and has come out really a lot, I think, today and through the workshops in particular, you know, in a nutshell, what this particular programme is about really is about that notion of making the most of your creative assets. I think you probably will have had a look at the website. That as well will develop, obviously, as the programme progresses. If you have queries, email us, and we will get straight back to you. As you'll see, really, the work I think that we started today, always quite quick when we're doing workshops, because obviously it's only 30 or 40 minutes, but the work I think has started here already. This notion, we're kind of keen through the application to find out really what it is that you want from this programme. So what it is about your creative assets and their potential, as it were, into the future that you might really be keen to address. That's one of the really key questions. So as much as you can tell us, obviously, the better. And really, again, then this notion of, I guess, the sort of wider challenges of resilience within your organisation as well. And as we've said, and I hope it's come out today, I mean, what we're really very keen to hear from you about is what you would like to get out of this programme. So this question 6 here, what is it that you would most like to gain from being in a programme like this? Because the more we get from you, the more we can shape, and that process starts right from those very embryonic conversations that will be taking place in the summer in July. The other thing as well, and we alluded to this earlier, we alluded to this notion, I think, of the programme being very much about the wider good, as it were, to use a probably very overused phrase. But, you know, what we're very interested in is how you individually might also want to share the learning and what you might want to do to really amplify, I suppose, the impact of what's been happening, what's going on with you more widely to your networks and within the sector. I think it should all be relatively straightforward. It's worth saying as well that although the programme itself is free, we do expect participants on the programme to make a modest contribution towards the accommodation costs in the residencies themselves. So we've got, we're planning that the residencies will be in Birmingham, and we've chosen Birmingham because, spookily enough, it is in the Midlands, and that rather much is in the middle of the country. So we're expecting those to be in Birmingham. So I think it's worth us saying that right now. But the rest of the programme is free. I mean, obviously, as well, if there are, you know, if travel, for example, really is a serious barrier for people, then of course please do talk to us, because we will be able to help if certain costs are really prohibitive, or again if there are other factors at play that might create difficulties, childcare needs and the like. So we're almost at 5 o'clock. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope it's been a useful afternoon. Do stay for a little while. We're going to be around, have a chat. And thank you all very, very much. Thank you.